In this session, we're going to cover how to convert a QPublic KML parcel to a shapefile. Here are the basic steps we're going to cover. We're going to create a new Arcmap project, change the coordinate system in the data frame properties, use Arc Toolbox to convert the KML to an actual layer file, and add base maps to the project to verify the spatial location of the parcel. Make sure it's in the right spot before we do any more work. Next thing we'll do is create a new shapefile to hold the new track geometry. Use a special tool in there called the complete polygon tool to get the parcel geometry into that shapefile. And then we'll add acres, an acres field to the attribute table and show you how to calculate acres. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new Arcmap project. So we're just going to launch Arcmap, and we'll give it a second to load, and then we're just going to create a new blank map project. So if you see any recent projects show up in the list right here, just hit cancel, and this will create a brand new blank map, and you'll see at the top it's called untitled. Okay, so at this point what I'm going to do is we're going to jump down to step 2, which is set the map coordinate system. So I'm going to go to the view menu, and I'm going to come down to data frame properties. And you'll see here that I've already got a list of favorite coordinate systems in my favorites folder. For this particular project, I want to use UTM NAT83 Zone 17 as my project coordinate system. Now, if you don't have yours in the favorites, you can navigate to them by going to the projected or whatever folder. Let's just say, for instance, I didn't have Zone 17 in my favorites. I'm going to come down to the UTM folder. I'm going to open up the NAT83 folder inside of it. Scroll down till I find Zone 17, and either you can click on it right here and hit OK, or you could also right click on it and hit Add to Favorites, and then you would have this coordinate system showing up in your favorites. So it's a good idea to go ahead and add all the ones that you use frequently. So you have them in the favorites folder. You won't have to dig for them. Okay, so I'm going to choose Zone 17. I'm going to hit OK right here. You'll see that nothing really changed on the map, but we do have the projection for the project set. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use a special tool in Arc Toolbox to convert the KML to an actual layer. Now it's not going to convert it to a shape file in one fell swoop. It's going to convert it to a layer file, and then we'll have to use another tool to convert that layer to a shape file. Okay, so we're going to click on the Arc Toolbox icon, and we're going to come down to the conversion tools, and we'll expand that, and then we'll expand from KML, and we'll choose the KML to layer tool. So we'll double click on it, and it will bring up this dialog box. So the input KML file will be the one that we've downloaded to our PC earlier from QPublic. So I'm just going to do I'm going to navigate to my C drive GIS data. I'm going to go to the QPublic example, and I'm going to choose the CMAC parcel right there. I'm going to hit open. Okay, now the output location, where do we want this thing stored? So I don't want it stored in the default location, so I'm going to put it in the QPublic example folder, and I'll just call this CM track. Okay, tell you what, I'm going to not put any spaces in there. I'll use an underscore instead. I'll hit OK. Whoops. Well, I'll tell you what, let's just choose the QPublic example folder, and I'm going to hit add right there. Alright, that'll work. Okay, so then I'll hit OK right here. And we'll give it a minute to process, and then we should see this new layer file showing up in the table of contents. And there we go. Okay, so I'm going to close out of my Arc Toolbox right here, and we'll notice down here we've got a check mark, so it was successful doing the KML to layer. Now, for some reason, the icon symbol, or the symbology that it uses for this parcel, is white, and you can't see it. So one thing that I like to do is I like to add a base map layer, like an aerial photo, in, so that we can verify the spatial location of this new layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the Add Data button, and I'm going to hit the little drop down arrow to the side of it. and I'm going to choose Add Base Map. So at this point, I'm just going to click on the ESRI World Imagery, and I'm going to hit Add. So it'll take just a second to load. This is all dependent upon your internet speed and your internet network connection. So it could take a minute. Okay, now our aerial photo has finally loaded in there, and if you see the globe spinning down here, that's a just keep your hands off the mouse or the keyboard and let Arcmap do its thing. It's still processing, so it'll take just a little bit longer. Just wait till that globe stops spinning. Okay, finally here we've got the globe stop spinning, and we can see the parcel showing up in white right here, and we can, that'll help us. We can verify that the geometry is correct right there. Now, the problem with the layer file is that number one, it's not a shape file, so we really can't do any edits on it. And number two, instead of it being a polygon, it's actually a polyline. So we're going to need to do a little manipulation to get it in the format that we want. Okay, so the next step, if you remember from the list of steps there, was we're going to create a new shapefile which is going to hold the geometry, and there's a little conversion we can do there. So the way we're going to create a new layer is we're going to go to Arc Catalog. Okay, so if you'll click the Arc Catalog button on your toolbar, and then we're going to navigate to the folder location where you'd like to store your new shapefile. Now I recommend under C drive GIS data, and you'll find this under your folder connections. If you don't have that, you can create a new you can do connect to folder, and so you can have that location show up under your folder connections, and then you can create a new one inside of it. So right now I'm going to create a new folder under GIS data by right clicking on it, and I'm going to go to new, and I'm going to go to folder, and I'm going to call this just the CM track. Okay, and you can create separate folders for any new project that you create. Okay, now there's nothing inside the CM track, it's empty. So I'm going to create a new shapefile inside of it in the same process that I did earlier to create the new folder. I'm just going to right click, and I'm going to come down to new. This time, instead of creating a new folder, I'm going to come down and I'm going to create a new shapefile. Okay, so I'm going to give the shapefile a name, and I can just call it the CM_track. I don't like to use spaces in a shapefile name, so use underscores instead, and don't use any hyphens or any special characters there. So next thing is the feature type, and we're going to make it a polygon. Okay, because we want to be able to calculate acres, an area, kind of thing. Okay, the special reference right now is unknown coordinate system, so we're going to hit the edit button down here, and I'm going to choose UTM zone 17. I'm going to use that as my coordinate system, and I'm going to hit OK right here. Okay, now you'll notice that it created the CM track in the table of contents, and it put a fill pattern of a yellow with a black outline. I really don't like that too much. I'm gonna click on that icon symbol, and I'm gonna change it to hollow, and then I'm gonna give it an outline color of a bright yellow, and I'm gonna make that outline color like a 1.5 width. Okay, and if you like this symbol and you want to use it over and over, you can hit save as and give this symbol a name, and it'll show up in your list here. Okay, make things a little streamlined for the next time you work on a project. So I'll hit OK right here. You'll notice that it changes my symbology. Okay, now the next step is going to be to use the autocomplete polygon tool to get the parcel geometry in the shapefile format. Okay, so this is a little tricky. We're going to take it slow. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to close my catalog window so I have a little bit more space on the screen. Okay, so now we're going to go up, and I'm going to right click on the CM track, and I'm going to come down, I'm going to go to edit features, and I'm going to start editing, because we're going to need to I'm going to hit continue if you see a dialog box like that pop up. okay, because we're going to need to start an edit session to be able to manipulate this geometry. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the editor toolbar. Okay, if you don't see your editor toolbar, you can click on this button on the standard toolbar and it will add the editor. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to drag our mouse, we're going to come up here, we want to go to the very last button on the toolbar, and it's called Create Features, and we're going to click on it. Alright, and it's going to put a little it's going to create this little column right here, and if you need it to be wider, you can drag it and resize it if needed. Okay, so you're going to click on the CM track, and then you'll notice at the bottom you've got construction tools. Now I'm just going to bring this little bar up so I can see all of the construction tools. And for this particular job, we're going to use the autocomplete polygon. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. Notice how it's going to change my cursor to the crosshairs right there, and I'm just going to let my cursor snap to that polyline, okay, the KML polyline, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose replace sketch, and then I'm going to immediately right click and hit finish sketch. Okay, if you'll notice now that it has you'll see that everything is highlighted in blue. So I'm going to accept that, and I'm just going to go up to the editor menu and I'm going to stop editing. Do you want to save your edits? Yes. Okay, and now I can turn off the CM parcel, and you'll see that we actually have the geometry from the KML parcel is now in our CM track. Okay, so at this point I can go ahead and remove the KML parcel layer file. Okay, so now I've got my track here, and if you right click on it and you go to open attribute table, you'll see that there's only one record in here, and it really doesn't have very many attributes other than the ones that Arcmap puts in there by default. So we're going to add a new field to the attribute table, and we're going to call it acres. Okay, and the type is going to be a double. Okay, and we're going to hit OK right here. Now to calculate acres, what I'm going to do is a lot of times I like to just make sure that nothing is selected, so it'll calculate acres on all the polygons. In this, in this particular example, we've only got one polygon, but just for reference, I want to, if you have a polygon selected, it will only calculate acres on that one polygon. So we're going to right click on the acres column header. We're going to come down to calculate geometry, and you'll say yes to this dialog box, and if you want to, you can check that don't warn me again. And so we're going to calculate area. The coordinate system we're going to use is correct, and then the units, we're going to choose the units as acres. Make sure you choose that acres US. It's very easy to choose some other area format, and so we're going to hit OK right here, and we'll hit yes to that dialog box, and then you'll see immediately that it's going to calculate our acreage in the attribute table. Okay, so that's all for this section. We'll jump into some more features on the next one.